Alrighty, so the last thing that I want to talk about before we export is I want to talk about gradients. It's something that's super small, but it helps the believability of almost every single object, no matter what size. So to create a gradient, I like to go up here to a fill layer. I like to choose just the color. You can do roughness and stuff, but color's just fine. You want to do like a white gradient and a black gradient just to make the bottom a little darker and the top a little lighter, because the sun will hit most things up top and make it lighter, or naturally things get darker as they go to the ground. So I usually like to choose red initially, just so I can see and affect the gradient properly. So I'm going to go ahead and name this our dark gradient, and then I'm going to add a black mask. Now that it's gone, I'm going to right click the black mask. I'm going to add a generator. From that generator, I'm going to go to a mask editor. We'll see that the curvature map is affecting this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to turn curvature off now that it's gone. And I'm going to use a position gradient. And if I turn it all the way up, you can see. And I'm going to open the position gradients drop down, and we can see right now we're using linear dodge. You can play with those. We can do a right to left. So if I turn this off and do a right to left, it's going to come right to left, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. You can also do front to back, but I'm going to use top to bottom. Now this is okay for the top, but I'm going to do a dark gradient, so I want it on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert this. Good. And now I can drop this down a little bit. Oh, there we go. We went all the way up. I can do a drop down on top to bottom, and we get some more editing that we can do between inverting just the top to bottom. We can, instead of inverting the entire thing, we can invert, because you can do multiple mixtures like position and curvature. We got front to back, all that kind of stuff. So now that I'm in my position gradient, I can change the balance. Okay, I want it to come about half up. The contrast, I can make it like rock solid, so it's just like completely half, and we don't really want that. We kind of want it to blur a little bit, and I don't want it that high. I just want a little bit right there. Good. Now that I have this, that's my gradient. So now I can go into my color, and I can choose black. And we can see when I turn it off and turn it on, you can see that there's a gradient. And I can actually, in the color mode, come to here, and I can actually turn this down, just put it on just a little. I can right click and duplicate, and I can call this my light gradient. And basically I'm just going to come into here. I'm going to go ahead and click. I can actually turn this red again just so we can see. Red, okay. I'm going to click the mask editor. I'm going to go to position gradient again. And then I invert, I'm going to reverse. And now we have the top. And now we can edit it just so it affects the top. Go back to the main layer right here. Red, we're going to go ahead and choose white. White is much more prevalent than black, so it blows this out really quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this, and I usually find that like something like in between 3 and 6 works just fine. 3, okay. So now we can, boom. You see we just have a little bit of that. So now with, it doesn't look like it's doing much, but that little bit is a little bit more believable to the eye. And what you can do is I can actually go here, right click, add a filter, and add a blur. And that'll blur it out just a little bit more. I can do the same thing for the bottom. So that would be adding gradients to the overall object on top of everything. You can also add these underneath, but you'd have to go into each one of these folders and add it. I just do it at the very end over the top. Another option, if you don't like it to be pure black, pure white, you can obviously go into the mask editor, and then you can apply a texture. You turn your texture opacity on, and I can choose a texture, and I can go dirt, and then I can just choose this, and now you can see that it's not solid white, that we actually have a little bit of dirt texture in here. So it's not an even break, it's a light breakup of that white. So that would be doing the last step before export, which is adding gradients to your object. And you don't feel free, if you don't want black, because black's not a natural color, you can obviously go brown. All right.